Toughness in the NFL can be summed up in one word these days, and that one word is Raiders. Today, these mighty Raiders come to do battle with the defending world champion Washington Redskins in a showdown that many believe may be a preview of Super Bowl 18. Usually, the Raiders start off slowly and build to a furious finish. But already Los Angeles has won 4 straight, establishing themselves as the AFC's only unbeaten team. The play of 35-year-old Jim Plunkett has been a prime reason for LA's prominence. And today, he and 34-year-old Joe Theismann will show the world that these two veteran signal callers are among the best by combining for nearly 800 yards passing. The Raiders certainly have always had their share of colorful characters, and Washington's answer to this collection of silver and black crazies is the effervescent Dexter Manley. The Redskins' Mohawked defensive end is one reason why the men from the capital have held 9 of their last 11 foes to under 100 yards rushing. Manley and the powerful world champions are psyched for a classic game, for today's contest will be indeed the irresistible force meeting the immovable object. From RFK Stadium, it's the NFL Game of the Week, and one hell of a game of the week at that. Veteran Lyle Alzado has played in the Super Bowl before. That was years ago in Super Bowl 12 as a Bronco. He knows when he's in a war. He knows how teams perform in the playoffs. This, in only the 5th week of the season, had the feel of a playoff game. And early on, Jim Plunkett lacked both feel and touch. Number 22, Curtis Jordan, picked off Plunkett's 3rd pass of the game as the Redskins, winners of 18 of their last 20, came out smoking. Washington had never beaten the Raiders, having lost in all 3 previous meetings. And throughout the first quarter, there was little time for Alzado and his buddies to rest. For Jim Plunkett continued to complete passes to the guys wearing the white jerseys. Safety Ken Coffey picked off Plunkett's 2nd miscue of the opening quarter, as the Raiders, minus the services of running sensation Marcus Allen, continuously went to the air. Washington has very few weaknesses, and pass defense is not one of them. Still, Plunkett put it up, and still the Redskins came down with it. Linebacker Mel Kaufman, number 55, cradled Plunkett's 3rd mistake of the opening quarter. 4 times the Raiders turned the ball over in the opening stanza, as 3 interceptions and a fumble recovery gave the Redskins opportunities to score. Unfortunately, those turnovers gave the Raiders opportunities to do what they have done better than anyone this year: play defense. The Redskins' offensive line is in mid-season form, having not allowed a sack in their last 2 games. But then again, the Hogs hadn't faced the Raiders. And these Raiders, while mistake-prone in the first quarter, made it tough for Washington to capitalize on the gifts they were given. Number 87, Charlie Brown, caught Theismann's toss out of bounds, and of their 4 opportunities gained through turnovers, the Redskins squeezed out 10 points on a Mark Mosley field goal and a gutty, determined run by the Diesel, John Riggins. Riggins' 2-yard score helped the Redskins to a 10-0 lead 5 minutes into the second quarter. And after a marvelous Jeff Hayes punt pinned the Raiders deep on their own 1-yard line, it seemed like Los Angeles was in for a long afternoon. Appearances can be deceiving, for the Raiders would travel those 99 yards for their first score of the game, and they'd do it in daring Raider fashion as well. Not by nibbling their way downfield with carefully calculated thrusts. Rather, they ate up those 99 yards in one big bite. a Raider trademark for decades. A 99-yard touchdown pass. Only 4 times that had happened before, but strangely enough, 3 of those 4 times it has taken place in front of Redskin fans, as Andy Farkas, Bobby Mitchell, and Jerry Allen all traveled that great distance as a Redskin. Now those 3 in Detroit's Pat Studstill have gained Cliff Branch as the newest member of the 99-yard club. Suddenly, the Raiders were right back in it, and suddenly Joe Theismann decided to mount Washington's best drive of the half. In a 7-play march, Art Monk caught 2 Theismann passes for 55 yards, setting up the touchdown to tiny Joe Washington, number 25. Washington took a 17-7 lead into the locker room at halftime by answering the Raiders' lightning score with one of their own. But what would make this game perhaps the best played all year so far was not the sacks, scores, tackles, and blocks. What made this game so outstanding was the emotion that each team displayed time and time again throughout the entire 60 minutes. Redskin and Raider alike played each down like it would be their last, as forearms, opinions, and face masks were the order of the day. Arguably, these 2 teams represent the best of their respective conferences, and fans at RFK were witnessing a classic. Fans that were satisfied even more when Theismann continued to whip his men downfield. Number 85, Don Warren, gained 33, setting up another Mark Mosley field goal, which gave the home team its biggest lead of the afternoon. And things went from bad to worse for the visitors wearing black. After a big gain, Calvin Muhammad was stripped by rookie corner Darrell Green, and Curtis Jordan made a super play by recovering the fumble inbounds for Washington. The Skin faithful were loving it. The Hogs, the Smurfs, the Fun Bunch, and the Diesel were looking good. The Raiders, it seemed, would be the 5th straight AFC opponent to be vanquished by the world champions. Once again, appearances can be deceiving. Number 46, Todd Christensen, gained 41 yards, and midway through the 3rd quarter, another big play cut the Redskin lead to 6. Calvin Muhammad quickly atoned for his fumble, and his great leaping catch in traffic made the score Redskins 20, Raiders 14. While Los Angeles would flounder and play rope-a-dope for a few rounds, again and again they delivered the knockout punch when they absolutely had to, as Muhammad simply got position on number 32, Vernon Dean, and came down with the ball. Believe it or not, both teams were just getting started. Before it was all over, nearly 900 yards of offense and 72 points would be rung up before a winner would emerge. Coming up, a quarter and a half of some of the most exciting football you've ever seen, as a wild and woolly affair at RFK continued. The Raiders were now beginning to see some daylight after a disastrous first half, but they were still not clicking as smoothly as they preferred. Through LA's first 4 wins, the defense had kept them in each ballgame, and it would be that unit that would hold the fort here as well. For all of the third period and nearly half of the fourth, the Redskins couldn't even get a whiff of the end zone. But Jim Plunkett kept finding that area a little tough to solve as well. This pass deflection by number 28 Darrell Green was Washington's equivalent of the day before the Alamo fell. It would be the Redskins' last official act on defense for much of the second half, as suddenly the Raider offense caught fire. Calvin Muhammad, with 1 touchdown already accounted for, hit the jackpot again. Muhammad would catch 5 passes on the day, and this one put the Los Angeles Raiders in the lead for the very first time. It had taken some huffing and puffing to overcome a fistful of first-half mistakes, but the Raiders had finally managed to grab the lead. Yet the world champion Redskins were not about to turn in their pads and go home. They came back immediately with what appeared to be another march to the end zone. But this processional was nipped in the bud when John Riggins coughed up the ball. Riggins' fumbles are about as rare as sightings of Halley's Comet. But when this one happened, the Redskins were out of business, and the Raiders were ready to roll again. LA ripped through the Redskins as the fourth quarter began. And before Washington could catch its breath, the Silver and Black had themselves another score and an 8-point lead. Todd Christensen hauled in Plunkett's toss from 2 yards out, his 3rd score of the season. The former Dallas running back, one of the latest of Raider boss Al Davis's successful reclamation projects, has turned into one of the NFL's most productive tight ends. And this catch must really have brought a smile to Davis' face. But that smile soon broke into a Cheshire Cat grin a few moments later when the Raiders stopped the Skins once more and forced a punting situation. That signaled the cue for another reclaimed Raider to take center stage, where Greg Pruitt, number 34, late of the Cleveland Browns, was about to make the longest play of his professional career. "97 yards later, Pruitt had himself his first kick return for a touchdown in over 9 years. And the Los Angeles Raiders had themselves a seemingly insurmountable 35-20 lead. Only 7.5 minutes remained in the ballgame, and the Raiders were shouting hosannas to the heavens. But the scenario of a big Raider comeback was not going to hold. Miraculously, the Redskins would bounce back in what would prove to be one of the greatest turnarounds in Washington since Harry Truman upset Thomas Dewey. The Raiders, beaming now, were about to fall victim to a Redskin renaissance. The Raiders' sideline was the picture of buoyant exuberance. It had been the visitor who had donned war paint and had stolen the Redskins' battle cry. But the Indian victory call the Raiders had borrowed would soon be silenced to a whisper as Washington began its extraordinary comeback. The NFL's premier kick returner, Mike Nelms, number 21, got things going quickly. And although a penalty trimmed the return total, it seemed to ignite the dormant Washington attack. Little Joe Washington exploded for 67 yards, and just 3 plays later, Big Joe Theismann hit good man Charlie Brown for a Redskin touchdown. Brown's scoring reception, his second in 2 weeks and 4th of the season, trimmed the Raider lead to 8, and over 6 minutes still remained. It was about this time last year when Brown transformed himself from an unknown rookie out of South Carolina State to a Pro Bowl receiver. It looks like Brown wants to get back to the Pro Bowl this year, too. The touchdown felt good to the Redskin followers, but the plain truth was 2 more scores, not 1, would be needed to defeat the Raiders. With just 6 minutes to go, Washington felt that now, not later, was the time to go for an onside kick to try to regain possession. And kicker Jeff Hayes responded with a cue shot that did the trick. Special teamer Greg Williams, number 47, stole the loose pigskin away from the Raiders, and Washington had the ball on the LA 32. Enter Joe Theismann in a flurry of short but productive pass completions that seemed to be sending the Redskins goalward. But just when everything seemed to be going Washington's way, Raider defensive end Howie Long, number 75, made a critical sack, ending any hope of a Redskin touchdown. Derailed for the moment, the Redskin Express salvaged the drive with a field goal from Mark Mosley. Although it wasn't the touchdown the Redskins hoped for, it did put them in a position to now win the game if they could just hold the Raiders and squeeze out 1 more touchdown of their own. It had been nearly 7 minutes since the Raider offensive unit had touched the football, and their stay on the field was shortened even more by an inflamed Washington defense. The Redskins now more resembled Bronco-busting cowpokes than Braves on the warpath, but the message was clear. The Raider defense, unsure of what would happen next, buckled in for what would prove to be a wild ride to the finish. With 1:50 remaining, the Redskins began their most important drive of the season. Three straight Theismann completions moved the Redskins to the shadows of the end zone. And then the Joe and Joe Show teamed up for one hell of a grand finale. For Joe Washington and Joe Theismann, it was their second touchdown of the game, and it catapulted the Redskins back to a 2-point lead. Little Joe Washington has always been the center of attention starting from his college days at Oklahoma. But last season in D.C., he had become a forgotten man with all the John Riggins hoopla. The Raiders would not forget Joe after this game, and neither would the Redskins faithful. The Redskins held the ball so long on the drive that L.A. would have only 33 seconds left to try for the win. But the Raiders' history is replete with last-second heroics, and the silver and black only needed a field goal to win, so Washington would have to be ready. To their good fortune, all suspense ended on the Raiders' very first play from scrimmage, when quarterback Jim Plunkett went for all the marbles. What he came up with was a Redskin interception and the end of any chance for Raider victory. With number 32, Vernon Dean's heist, the game was over and the defending world champions had earned one of the greatest wins in team history. This game had been ballyhooed as a possible preview of Super Bowl 18. No doubt if both teams promised to play a game with this many great moments, with so many dramatic twists and turns, then it's likely that football followers everywhere would say, go ahead and play in the big one. It would be some game. But that's something to ponder for the future. For now, it's one of the great moments to savor thus far in a young but already wild 1983 season.